Hey folks, Szeto here, hope you're well. And so this week, I'm going to break down the costs of my cabin. I've been laboring over all the receipts over the last several months, also taking a look at my bank statements, and I kind of, came up with these rough numbers. They might not be 1,000% correct, but it's pretty close. Ultimately, without further ado, the grand total of my build came out to approximately $10,632. And for the Americans who are watching, that's actually $8,012. After taking a look at the receipts themselves, I was able to break them into 3 categories I found. Those categories being travel, my supplies, which was a huge one, and then lastly, the food. The food, of course, we had to eat when we were on site and stuff like that, so kind of factored that in. So for those particular costs, the food ended up costing around $286, and most of that really was groceries. Then there was travel. The site is about an hour away from where I live, calculating that my gas money was approximately $320 or so. And then of course the big one is supplies. This accounts for essentially the majority of the costs of the build, and of course it cost about $10,142 for supplies. Now let's talk about the suppliers. I spent roughly half the budget, or $4,791 with Irwin's. Irwin's was great. They're kind of my local in that area. They're out of Casabasua and 20, 25 minutes, 30 minutes away from the site essentially. And they were able to deliver all my materials for free when I made those purchases. So, shouts out to them. I couldn't have done this without them. And then of course there was basically my second home, Home Depot. At Home Depot, I ended up spending $2,351. Honestly, I'd be in and out of there almost as much as I was to and from the cabin, essentially. Super helpful, and yeah, you almost kind of can't do it without them, essentially. And then lastly, there was the stove itself, which was Stoked Canada, the third biggest supplier. I ended up spending close to $1,000. It was actually $955 on all my stove and stove accessory. Other things that are going to kind of come up will be my composting toilet. I actually have all the materials for that structure. They were from Irwin's and stuff, and they're actually on the site. That's going to end up costing me $1,310 or so. I'm going to be buying the Nature's Head composting toilet. Seems like it's got great reviews, and it should hopefully suffice. Another thing too is I'm going to be working and building a climbing wall in there. I'm going to want to buy holds, so I'm going to buy that from Mech, and it's going to probably cost me about another $400 or so. So last but not least, when you take a look at the costs per square foot, because it's essentially 100 square feet, my costs end up coming out to $106 per square feet, and that's of course Canadian. When you look at HomeAdvisor.com, in the States, it seems like a custom home would cost anywhere from $100 to $400 American per square foot and stuff like that. So I'm stoked. It seems like, I was able to build it on cheap. Now, other considerations, of course, include that labor was essentially free. I did buy a $600 generator, which I included in those costs for my pal Richard. And, I honestly could not do it without him. He basically quarterbacked this whole project through, and yeah, thank you so much. And then friends who showed up, Screwbar, Richard Turner, Captain Tom, a lot of my really close friends came through and did me a huge solid here and there as well. So, they definitely have keys to my spot and can definitely stay anytime as well there. So yeah, can't thank folks enough, and I hope this was insightful. It's my first time kind of doing this, and if I'm not calculating this right, or if there's other factors I need to consider here, please feel free to let me know below in the comments, and yeah, really appreciate it, and yeah, more to come. Let's keep building. Peace. Take care.